We see the forest where some people were cutting trees. They were cleaning the southern part of the forest at this time. Everything remains normal throughout the day, but as the evening falls, one of their team members suddenly disappears somewhere. The supervisor tries to contact the head of all of them, but there is no response from the other side. Here the supervisor goes alone into the forest, which was his biggest mistake. After some time, a dangerous creature attacks and kills him here. After this, the scene shifts to a distance of 90 miles from the southern part of the forest, where we are shown the Sheriff Paul of this town, who was sitting alone in a park at this time. He looks very disappointed and sad on seeing him. Then we see a man named Ron who had 13 horses, but now he has only 12. Ron takes the help of Paul and Donny to find one of his horse. During the investigation, both of them guess that the horse might have gone out after seeing the gate open. They conclude the case as a normal one and leave. While leaving, they see Ron's daughter with a horse. Donny is looking at her with loving eyes. Then Paul warns him and says that Ron had shot her last boyfriend. Paul goes straight from here to his son Adam. Paul's wife's name was Susan. Both of them used to stay away from each other due to some reason. Susan used to live at her mother's house. Paul takes Adam to his house and then starts making dinner. Meanwhile, Adam asks Paul, "When will Mummy stay with you?" Paul says with great sadness that it will take time for both of us. Both of them were still talking when Paul feels the sound of someone being in the house. When Paul goes to check, there is no one there. Seeing this, Paul casually puts his son Adam to sleep and then goes to bed himself. The next morning, when Donny comes to Paul's house, there are footprints of some animal outside. Seeing this, Paul also gets confused. When both of them follow these footprints are found all over the road and they go towards the forest. In the forest, Paul and Donny see some strange marks. Paul inquires about this from the forest department, and the people of the forest department tell him that they neither know anything about this animal nor have they heard anything related to it. These footprints become a mystery, due to which the people of the town start getting scared. Paul tries very hard to gather information about this animal, but he does not get anything. Finally ends townspeople fear by telling that it was just a prank. After this, we see Paul talking to the church father. The father tells him that my dog has suddenly disappeared somewhere, so he asks him to write a missing report. On the other hand, we see Donny, who was in Paul's room at this time. He takes out a child's photo from Paul's drawer and starts looking at it very carefully. After this, when Paul goes to buy goods from the store, a girl named Clara also questions Paul about the animal that came to the town. Then a boy named Jim interrupts and says that my grandfather had told that there is something scary in that forest which can put us in danger, but Paul does not believe any of his words. Jim takes the name of Donny here and tells that Donny is behind all this. Hearing this, Paul scolds Jim a lot and leaves from there in anger. Outside, Paul meets a hunter named Earl. He tells Paul that earlier there used to be a large number of deer in this forest, but now deer are not seen anywhere. It seems as if all the deer have disappeared somewhere. Paul also does not feel right after listening to Earl, and he goes to Susan's house to pick up Adam. Susan tells Paul that when I and Adam went to the park, all the children there were talking that demon has come and those footprints were also his. Adam got very scared of this. Here from the conversation of both of them, we also come to know that both of them had separated 6 months ago, and the reason for this was also very big. After talking, Susan sends Adam with Paul, and when both of them are on the way, a strange dangerous animal comes in front of their car, and seeing them, it quickly runs away towards the forest. Paul decides to get out of the car to see this animal and for safety, orders Adam to stay inside the car. When Paul enters the forest, he finds Ron's horse's neckband. Apart from this, he sees nothing in the distance. So he returns to his car, but when he looks inside, Adam is missing. Seeing this, Paul is shocked. He calls out for Adam repeatedly, but there is no response. Then his eyes fall on his horse. When he rushes home to check, he finds Adam inside. Seeing Adam, Paul gets a new life and he hugs him. On the other hand, we see Donny, who had come to Earl's bar and serves Donny a drink, and then both of them start talking. Earl tells Donny a story related to the forest which his grandmother had told him. Earl says that there is a dwelling of spirits in that forest, and also told story about a boy who suddenly disappeared some time ago, and when he was searched in the jungle, he was found hanging on a tree 30 feet above. These words of Paul create fear in Donny's mind and he gets very frightened. The next day, Paul and Susan together go to Adam's school and have a meeting with his principal. The principal complains about Adam because he used the wrong words, and also tells that whenever Adam mentions his brother, his words make it seem as if he is still alive. whereas Adam's brother had died some time ago. There is an argument between Susan and the principal regarding this, after which Susan and Paul leave from there. When Paul is on the way, he sees his son's grave, seeing which he becomes a little emotional. Then he sees Donny standing on the other side, who comes to him after seeing Paul. After a few minutes, they hear some strange sound, and as soon as they look towards the sky, they see thousands of birds flying. Paul tells Donny that Earl had revealed that the wildlife is over, which means that all the birds were also leaving the jungle. But the problem was that those birds had to go to the south side, but they were flying in a different direction. Hearing all this, Donny also tells Paul about the conversation with Earl, and when he reveals about the dead body of the boy found in the jungle, Paul dismisses it by calling it a murder case. After this, the scene shifts to Donny and Susan. Donny had fixed Susan's car, and during the conversation, Donny tells her the story of becoming a police officer. Here Susan also tells about Paul's past, that when I went to my house with Adam, Paul was with Adam's brother, that is his second son, but in the meantime, Adam's brother reached near the swimming pool and died due to drowning in the water unknowingly. This was the reason that I considered Paul irresponsible and went away from him. Here Paul gets a call from Ron. Paul with Donny goes to Ron. Ron tells them that last night someone was knocking on my door loudly, and today Ron asks for their help to catch him. But Paul avoids it by saying that it is a child's prank. But then a loud sound comes from outside. Paul goes to the field alone and looks around. He sees a strange creature which was seen running in the forest earlier also. Today also it escapes from Paul and runs away. The next morning both Donny and Paul come to Earl's bar again, where they see footprints of the creature. Paul considers these footprints as evidence and tries to gather information about them because no such creature was seen till date. After this we see Paul having lunch with his family. Here Adam tells Paul and Susan that I want to live with both of you. On this Paul asks them to wait for some more time. Here Donny goes to Clara's shop to do shopping, and here both of them talk to each other very lovingly. In the night when Paul is going to his house, he sees a dead deer on the way. When Paul gets down from the car to check it, a creature attacks him, but he does not get hurt and quickly sits in the car and comes home. In the next frame, we see Paul and Donny sitting together in Earl's bar. Paul also tells Donny about that incident. Before today, Paul used to think of the creature as just a story, but when he got attacked, he now believes in creature's existence. They also meet Jim in the bar, who tried to provoke them. The next morning, 3 hunters go to the forest to hunt animals. These 3 are unaware of this, that creature is keeping an eye on them. As soon as it gets a chance, it attacks all 3 of them one by one. After some time, Paul passes through the forest and suddenly he remembers his son, and while behaving strangely, he starts calling his son. Hearing Paul's voice, a hunter comes to him who was very injured. Paul takes him along to help and then interrogates him. This hunter tells him everything that happened in the forest. Hearing this, Paul also understood that the forest is very dangerous, and whatever creature is in that forest is very clever and dangerous. Meanwhile, Earl calls Paul and asks him to come to the forest quickly. When Paul goes to the forest and looks, the dead bodies of those 2 hunters are present on the tree. They were killed very brutally. Seeing this, Paul orders everyone to leave the forest and himself asks the forest department team to come here. In the evening, due to the snowy weather, all the people of the town are at their homes and the town becomes empty. When Donny goes to Paul's house to meet him, Paul shows him a report and tells him about the disappearance of the team of loggers. Actually, these were the same woodcutters shown at the beginning of the movie. According to Paul, clearing the forest had freed the creature. After some time, Jim arrives at Paul's house and shows him a video in which the creature is seen running and suddenly disappearing. After everyone leaves, Paul hears Adam screaming because the creature has come to their house. Paul quickly locks himself in the bathroom with Adam and calls Donny for help. Donny tries to catch the creature, but it is of no use. Paul and Donny then take all the townspeople to the church for safety, but a large number of creatures gather outside as well. Paul sends everyone to the basement while he and Donny stay behind to fight the creatures. During the battle, a creature injures Donny, but Donny manages to stab it in the shoulder. Paul then kills the creature and everyone emerges from the basement, relieved and happy. However, Donny and Paul soon notice something terrifying, that the creature's wounds are healing on their own, and also we see bunch of creature outside. With this suspense the movie ends.